If this video found you today, it wasn't random scrolling or algorithmic chance, it was divine interception orchestrated by forces beyond your understanding, because you're standing at the edge of total chaos in your life, and heaven has decided it's time to teach you how to rise above it instead of being consumed by it. Right now, everything around you feels like it's falling apart simultaneously. Relationships are fracturing, finances are unstable, health concerns are mounting, and the very foundations of your reality seem to be shaking beneath your feet. But what you're experiencing isn't punishment or abandonment. It's the prerequisite storm that always precedes supernatural elevation for chosen vessels. Chaos isn't your enemy, chosen one, it's your catalyst. Every chosen vessel throughout history has faced moments when their entire world seemed to collapse before their breakthrough arrived. Because chaos serves a divine purpose that most people never understand. It's the universe's way of destroying everything in your life that's been built on wrong foundations so that something indestructible can be constructed in its place. You're not being destroyed. You're being deconstructed so you can be rebuilt according to divine specifications that can withstand anything the future brings. What you're experiencing right now has been prophesied in your spiritual blueprint since before you were born. The intensity of the chaos you're facing is directly proportional to the magnitude of the calling on your life. Because small destinies don't require the kind of character development that only comes through navigating impossible circumstances with supernatural grace. You're being forged in the fire of confusion and uncertainty because ordinary pressure doesn't create extraordinary vessels capable of carrying extraordinary power. The chaos in your life is serving three specific divine purposes that will become clear once you understand the process you're actually in. First, it's revealing which relationships, habits, and mindsets in your life are built on sand versus which ones are built on rock. The things that are collapsing weren't meant to survive your next level anyway, and chaos is simply accelerating their removal. So you don't waste years trying to drag incompatible elements into your elevated future. Second, chaos is developing your supernatural calm, the ability to remain peaceful in the center of storms, because you're connected to a source of stability that exists beyond circumstances. This inner tranquility isn't natural. It's cultivated through repeated exposure to situations that would normally create panic, anxiety, or desperation. You're learning to access divine peace that surpasses understanding because your future assignments will require you to be a calming presence for others during their chaotic seasons. Third, chaos is teaching you to navigate by spiritual GPS rather than natural sight, because your destiny will take you places where conventional wisdom and normal strategies don't work. You're learning to hear God's voice above the noise, to trust divine timing when everything seems urgent, and to take supernatural steps when human logic says to retreat. These aren't just spiritual concepts. They're practical skills that you'll need to fulfill the impossible assignments you're being prepared to receive. The breakthrough you're approaching isn't just relief from your current struggles. It's access to a completely different operating system for life that makes you virtually immune to future chaos. Because you've learned how to find your center in any storm, you're not just getting through this difficult season. You're being equipped with supernatural abilities that will make you invaluable to others who are facing their own chaotic seasons and need someone who knows how to rise above. Instead of being swallowed by overwhelming circumstances, the signs that you're ready to rise above chaos rather than continue being tossed around by it are emerging in your life right now. And recognizing these indicators will help you transition from surviving your storm to mastering it. The first sign is what I call chaos fatigue. You're reaching a point where being stressed, anxious, and reactive to every crisis feels more exhausting than learning a different way to respond to challenging circumstances. This fatigue isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Your soul is telling you that the old methods of handling difficulty aren't sustainable, and that you need supernatural strategies that don't depend on everything going smoothly in order for you to remain stable. When you're tired of being tired, you become open to solutions that seem too mystical or impractical. When you thought you could control your circumstances through human effort alone. The second sign is pattern recognition. You're beginning to see that the same types of challenges keep recycling in your life with different faces, locations, and details, but essentially the same underlying dynamics. This awareness is crucial because it reveals that external circumstances aren't the real problem. Your internal response patterns are what need to be upgraded. When you change how you respond to chaos, chaos loses its power to destabilize you. The third sign is supernatural curiosity. Instead of just wanting your problems to go away, you're becoming interested in understanding why these particular challenges are in your life and what they're trying to develop in your character. This shift from victim mentality to student mentality is evidence that your consciousness is expanding to accommodate higher perspectives that can transform obstacles into opportunities. The fourth sign is divine discontent. Normal solutions that used to satisfy you no longer feel adequate because your spirit is reaching for something more powerful, more permanent, and more aligned with your true identity as a chosen vessel. You're no longer willing to settle for coping mechanisms that just help you survive. You want transformation strategies that help you thrive regardless of external conditions. The fifth sign is unexpected strength. You're discovering that you can handle much more than you thought possible, and that crisis situations are revealing capabilities and resources within you that you never knew existed. This isn't just resilience. It's evidence that your spiritual capacity is expanding to match the level of responsibility you're being prepared to carry. Beloved chosen vessel, I need to pause here because I can feel the recognition flowing through many of you as you realize that your chaos isn't random suffering, but strategic preparation for something extraordinary. If you're ready to stop being a victim of your circumstances and start becoming a master of them, I want you to make a commitment that demonstrates your readiness for this transformation. Subscribe to this channel not as passive entertainment, but as active participation in a community of chosen ones who are learning to operate above the chaos rather than be controlled by it. This isn't just about watching content. It's about joining a network of people who understand that rising above chaos is both possible and necessary for fulfilling your divine assignment. In the comments, write "rising above" so I can pray specifically for your elevation and so others can witness your declaration of war against mediocrity and limitation. The sixth sign is peace in the storm. Moments of supernatural calm that come over you even while chaos swirls around you, giving you glimpses of what it feels like to be anchored to something unshakable. These moments aren't accidents. They're previews of your new normal once you learn to consistently access the divine stability that exists within you regardless of what's happening around you. The seventh sign is clarity in confusion, receiving specific insights, strategies, or directions that seem to come from beyond your own thinking, especially during times when you feel most overwhelmed. This divine intelligence is becoming available to you because chaos is breaking down. The mental barriers that previously blocked your ability to receive supernatural guidance. Rising above chaos isn't about eliminating difficulties from your life. It's about developing an internal stability that remains unshaken regardless of external turbulence. And this supernatural equilibrium comes through mastering what I call the 4 pillars of divine stability that serve as your foundation when everything else seems uncertain. These aren't just concepts. They're practical, spiritual technologies that create unshakable peace in the midst of any storm. The first pillar is identity anchoring, knowing who you are at such a deep level that external circumstances cannot shake your sense of self-worth, purpose, or destiny. When your identity is anchored in divine truth rather than human opinion or temporary situations, you become immune to the emotional roller coaster that chaos tries to create. You stop taking everything personally because you understand that most of what happens around you isn't about you. It's about spiritual forces that are much larger than your individual circumstances. The second pillar is divine timeline trust, accepting that there's a perfect timing for every season of your life, including the chaotic ones, and that rushing or resisting the process only prolongs your discomfort. When you surrender to divine timing, you stop trying to force outcomes and start flowing with the current of God's plan, which always leads to better results than your human effort could produce. The third pillar is supernatural supply assurance, knowing beyond doubt that your needs will be met regardless of how impossible your circumstances appear, because you're connected to a source of provision that operates beyond natural laws. This isn't positive thinking, it's faith-based knowing that comes from experiencing God's faithfulness enough times to trust His character even when you can't see His plan. The fourth pillar is purpose-driven, perspective understanding that every experience in your life, including the chaotic ones, is serving your ultimate assignment and developing qualities that you'll need for future levels of responsibility. When you can see your current struggles as preparation rather than punishment, you can endure anything because you know it's temporary training for permanent advancement. Mastering these 4 pillars requires daily practice, especially during chaotic seasons when your natural tendency is to panic. control, or escape, rather than anchor deeper into divine stability. The more consistently you return to these foundations during turbulent times, the faster they become your automatic response, rather than something you have to consciously remember to access. The process of rising above chaos also involves what I call chaos jujitsu, learning to use the energy of your problems to propel you forward rather than allowing them to knock you down. In martial arts, jujitsu teaches you to redirect an opponent's force rather than meeting it with equal force. And the same principle applies to navigating life's challenges. Instead of fighting against your circumstances, you learn to find the hidden opportunity within every obstacle and use the momentum of the problem to accelerate your progress. For example, financial pressure can become motivation to discover new income streams that you never would have explored during comfortable times. Relationship conflicts can reveal character issues that need to be addressed before you can attract healthier connections. Health crises can force lifestyle changes that ultimately result in better physical condition than you had before the problem arose. The key to successful chaos jujitsu is asking better questions when problems arise. Instead of "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this developing in me?" Instead of "How do I get rid of this?" ask, "How do I grow through this?" Instead of "When will this end?" ask, "What do I need to learn before this season is complete?" These perspective shifts transform you from a victim who suffers through chaos to a student who benefits from it. Rising above chaos also requires building what I call divine muscle memory, automatic responses to stress and pressure that come from practicing supernatural solutions until they become more natural than natural reactions. Just like physical muscle memory allows athletes to perform complex movements without conscious thought, divine muscle memory allows you to access peace, wisdom, and faith instantly when chaos tries to destabilize you. The practical strategies for rising above chaos work on both spiritual and psychological levels because transformation requires engaging your entire being, spirit, soul, and body in the process of elevation. Rather than trying to think your way out of problems that are bigger than mental solutions can address, these aren't religious platitudes or positive thinking techniques. They're battle-tested methods that have been used by chosen vessels throughout history to maintain divine stability in impossible circumstances. Strategy 1 is chaos compartmentalization, learning to separate what's actually happening from the stories your mind creates about what might happen, what should happen, or what you fear will happen. Most of the suffering during chaotic seasons comes not from the actual problems, but from the mental spirals that magnify problems beyond their actual impact. When you deal only with current reality, instead of imagined futures or interpreted meanings, chaos loses much of its emotional power over you. Strategy 2 is divine download sessions, daily periods of silent listening where you receive supernatural guidance, peace, and perspective that your natural mind cannot produce. These aren't just prayer times where you talk to God. They're download sessions where God talks to you, providing solutions, comfort, and direction that transcend human wisdom. Consistency with these sessions builds your capacity to hear divine voice above the noise of chaotic circumstances. Strategy 3 is energy protection protocols, deliberately guarding your mental, emotional, and spiritual energy from being drained by chaos through setting boundaries with negative people, limiting exposure to discouraging media, and choosing your responses rather than reacting automatically to every crisis. This isn't selfishness, it's stewardship of the inner resources you need to remain stable and helpful during turbulent times. Strategy 4 is faith-based fact creation, speaking divine truth over your circumstances, even when natural evidence suggests otherwise. Because your words have creative power that can shift spiritual atmospheres and ultimately change physical realities. This isn't denial of problems, it's declaration of solutions that exist in spiritual realm and need to be called into manifestation through faith-filled speech. Strategy 5 is supernatural gratitude practice, finding specific things to appreciate even during difficult seasons. Because gratitude is a frequency that magnetizes breakthrough and creates inner joy that chaos cannot steal. This practice rewires your brain to look for good instead of focusing on problems, which changes your entire experience of challenging circumstances. Strategy 6 is divine alliance building, surrounding yourself with people who understand supernatural principles and can speak life, wisdom, and encouragement into your situation when your own faith feels weak. These aren't just social connections. They're spiritual partnerships that create collective strength for navigating individual challenges. Precious chosen warrior, we've reached a pivotal moment where I sense the Holy Spirit, highlighting specific individuals who are tired of being tossed around by every storm and are ready to learn how to walk on water instead of drowning in waves. If you recognize that your chaotic season is actually preparation for unprecedented breakthrough, and you're committed to mastering the art of rising above rather than being controlled by circumstances, I want you to take action that demonstrates your seriousness about this transformation. Subscribe to this channel and engage actively with our community of rising chosen ones who refuse to accept that chaos must control their peace, their progress, or their purpose. This community provides ongoing support, practical strategies, and spiritual encouragement for those who are learning to thrive in any environment. In the comments, write "I rise above" and share one specific area where you need supernatural stability, so I can pray for your breakthrough and so others can support you in your elevation journey. Strategy 7 is prophetic perspective maintenance, regularly remembering and declaring the promises, visions, and prophetic words you've received about your future, because these divine guarantees anchor your hope when present circumstances try to convince you that your breakthrough will never come. Your prophetic perspective reminds you that current chaos is temporary preparation for permanent advancement. Living above chaos rather than being controlled by it creates a completely different life experience, where you become a source of stability and wisdom for others who are still learning to navigate turbulent seasons. And this transformation affects every area of your existence in ways that extend far beyond just feeling better during difficult times. When you master the art of rising above chaos, you develop what I call storm immunity, the ability to remain peaceful, productive, and purposeful regardless of what's happening around you. The first major change you'll experience is emotional sovereignty. Your feelings stop being controlled by external circumstances and start being governed by internal convictions based on divine truth. Instead of being on an emotional roller coaster that goes up and down based on daily events, you maintain emotional equilibrium that allows you to think clearly and make wise decisions even during crisis situations. The second change is supernatural problem solving. Instead of being overwhelmed by challenges, you develop confidence in your ability to find solutions, because you've learned to access divine wisdom that provides answers beyond human understanding. Problems become puzzles to solve rather than disasters to endure, and you approach difficulties with curiosity and faith rather than fear and panic. The third change is influence expansion. People naturally begin looking to you for guidance and stability during their chaotic seasons because they recognize that you possess something they need. Your peace becomes magnetic to those who are struggling, and your perspectives become valuable to those who are confused, creating opportunities for ministry and leadership that wouldn't exist if you were still being tossed around by every storm. The fourth change is accelerated growth. What used to take years to develop in your character now happens in months because you've learned to extract maximum benefit from every challenging experience. Crisis becomes classroom, and problems become professors that teach you lessons you couldn't learn during comfortable seasons. The fifth change is divine timing mastery. You develop an inner knowing about when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to listen, when to push forward and when to rest. This supernatural timing allows you to move in rhythm with divine flow rather than against it, which multiplies your effectiveness while reducing your effort. Your relationships will transform as you attract people who appreciate your stability and wisdom while naturally distancing yourself from those who thrive on drama and chaos. You'll discover that your inner peace is actually a form of spiritual warfare that displaces negative atmospheres and creates space for divine solutions to manifest. Your decision-making process will become more intuitive and accurate because you've learned to access divine counsel rather than relying solely on human analysis. You'll find yourself making choices that seem risky to others but prove to be perfectly timed and strategically wise because they're based on supernatural insight rather than natural sight. Your physical health will often improve as you learn to release stress and anxiety that previously created tension in your body. When your mind is at peace and your spirit is anchored in divine stability, your body naturally functions better and heals faster from the effects of previous chaotic seasons. Most importantly, you'll develop what I call legacy consciousness, awareness that your ability to rise above chaos isn't just for your personal benefit, but for the generations who will learn from your example and be inspired by your testimony. Your mastery of supernatural stability becomes an inheritance that you pass down to your children and a gift that you offer to your community. The ultimate reward of rising above chaos is discovering that you're actually designed to be a calming presence in turbulent environments, rather than just someone who survives difficult times. You realize that your calling includes bringing divine order to chaotic situations and supernatural peace to troubled people, which gives profound meaning to every storm you've learned to navigate successfully. You'll also develop storm radar, the ability to sense chaotic seasons approaching and prepare for them rather than being caught off guard. This prophetic sensitivity allows you to help others prepare for their difficult seasons and provides early warning systems that minimize the impact of future challenges. Your future, as someone who has mastered the art of rising above chaos, will be marked by a level of inner stability and outer influence that makes you invaluable during times of global uncertainty, societal upheaval, and collective fear, because you'll be one of the few people who remains anchored when everything else seems to be shaken. This isn't just personal transformation, it's preparation for a global ministry of bringing divine order to chaotic environments. In the coming years, the world will face unprecedented levels of chaos in multiple areas simultaneously: economic instability, political upheaval, natural disasters, social unrest, and spiritual confusion. And those who have learned to rise above chaos will become lighthouse figures that others look to for stability, wisdom, and hope. Your current training in supernatural equilibrium is preparation for leadership roles that you can't even imagine yet. Your children and future generations will inherit not just your material legacy, but your spiritual technology for navigating uncertainty with grace and faith. They'll grow up watching someone who doesn't panic during crises, who finds solutions when others find only problems, and who maintains peace when everyone else is losing their minds. This modeling will give them emotional and spiritual resources that most people never develop. Your sphere of influence will expand exponentially as your reputation for wisdom and stability spreads through networks of people who need someone they can trust during turbulent times. Leaders in business, ministry, and community organizations will seek your counsel because they recognize that you possess something rare and valuable: the ability to think clearly and act wisely when pressure would normally cause people to make poor decisions. The most profound impact of your chaos mastery will be the supernatural peace that emanates from your presence and affects every environment you enter. Meetings will become more productive when you're present, conflicts will de-escalate when you speak into them, and anxiety will decrease in rooms where you spend time, because you carry an atmosphere of divine stability that's stronger than any chaotic energy. Your prayer life will transform from asking God to remove problems to partnering with Him to bring solutions that serve not just your needs, but the needs of everyone affected by the situation. You'll develop authority in spiritual realms that allows you to speak peace over storms and see supernatural intervention in seemingly impossible circumstances. 20 years from now, when you look back on this season when you learned to rise above chaos, you'll see it as the turning point when you stopped being controlled by circumstances and started becoming a controller of atmospheres. You'll understand how every chaotic experience was necessary preparation for the level of spiritual authority you now carry and the impact you're able to make in a world that desperately needs people who know how to access supernatural stability. Your testimony of rising above chaos will become a source of hope for countless others who are facing their own impossible circumstances and need proof that supernatural peace is possible even in the middle of life's most difficult storms. Your life will demonstrate that chosen ones aren't exempt from chaos, but are equipped to transcend it. The eternal significance of your chaos mastery extends beyond this lifetime as the spiritual principles you've learned and the peace you've modeled continue, influencing people you'll never meet through the ripple effects of your transformation. Every time you chose peace over panic, faith over fear, and divine perspective over natural sight, you are creating spiritual momentum that will continue blessing others long after your earthly mission is complete. Your ultimate reward will not be the absence of problems, but the presence of supernatural power that makes you more than conqueror in every situation. You'll discover that your greatest ministry comes not from what you say during good times, but from how you respond during chaotic times, and that your most powerful testimonies emerge from the storms you've learned to calm through divine authority. I want to close with a prophetic declaration over your ability to rise above chaos, that every storm in your life becomes a platform for demonstrating God's supernatural peace, that your inner stability becomes unshakable regardless of external circumstances, that your wisdom during chaotic seasons becomes a source of hope for others who are struggling to find their way through confusion, that your presence brings divine order to every environment you enter and supernatural calm to every crisis you encounter, that the chaos that once threatened to destroy you becomes the very foundation for your greatest victories and most powerful ministry, and that when people remember your life, they'll say there was someone who knew how to find peace in any storm and taught others to do the same. In the mighty name of Jesus, I declare that you are rising above every chaos, transcending every limitation, and walking in supernatural stability from this moment forward. The storm doesn't control you anymore. Chosen one, you control the storm. Amen and amen.